And we are back. Got the man in the middle doing all the craziness, Mr. Rodney Cox from Game Time, as well as my guy, Daniel from Varsity Breakdown. I'm Chris from SoAZ. We
Mm,
are doing it again. We're back. It's been a moment. I know that. But we are doing the 5A Sonoran, one of
yes,
the
sir.
7 teams. I think it's actually the largest region in 5A football, which is actually interesting. Um,
Really?
yeah. We're gonna hit it up, but like what we do every time we do this, what we do is we reflect on how teams ended up last year. We look at Max Prep's rankings. We go over them, see if we feel that the teams are going to be better or worse, um, and you kind of catch on as we go through this. We'll drop where they were ranked last year and kind of go from that. Last year, what we do is this. As always, I'm going to have my man Daniel hop in, go over the region, dropping some knowledge on where they ended last year.
All right, we're going to start things off with Flowing Wells, who finished 3-7 last year, 2-3 in the region. Ironwood Ridge finishing 8-2, 4-1 in the region, and as you can see, the only team to make the playoffs. Maricopa finished 4-6, 2-3 in the region. Mountain View 4-6 as well, and 3-2 in the region. Nogales unfortunately fell to 0-10 and 0-5 in the region. And last but not least, you have Tucson, who finished 5-5 and 4-1 in the region.
Definitely an interesting region, hands down.
Mhm.
This is what's kind of happened a couple years ago. What they decided in the Southern Arizona market was to do a strong region, weak region, which actually I think has benefited some of these teams. They've actually seen some records that they hadn't seen in a while, some win loss records that were definitely in need to help build up the program. But this is the weaker of the two regions. But there's some great football in here.
Mhm.
Um, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off first, right here with Flowing Wells. Which one of y'all want to
Absolutely.
jump on this first?
Let's do it. Here we go. So, Flowing Wells is coming in ranked at 137. Their first game is a home game against Agua Fria, who's ranked 106. And then their next two games are going to be away games at Sunnyside, who's ranked 80. And then at Amphire, who's ranked 117. Oh, and then they're at Sarita, who's ranked 186. Then they get to come back home for a little bit before their bye week. So, home game against Barry Goldwater, who is ranked 96. Ironwood Ridge, who's ranked 77, and then Mountain View, who's ranked 102. Like again, I said, they're going to be a bye week right there, and then they're going to end their last three games during the season at Tucson, who's 108, Nogales, who's ranked 187, and then Maricopa, who's ranked 130. Max Krebs got them going 2-8. Daniel, you got them going 2-8. Me and Chris got them going 3-7. So who wants to attack this first?
I could go first.
Go ahead, man.
They got the two wins I have them getting against are
Mhm.
at Sawarita, and then I have them beating Nogales. I know as far as what you guys kind of differ from me is
Mhm.
the game against Maricopa, which they did very well last year against. I just think
Mhm.
with what Maricopa has building, from last year, I think all the returning players are going to help them possibly take the win, especially being the last home game senior night. You're going to want to go out with the bang there.
Okay.
Uh,
That's good.
is there any key players coming back from Flowing Wells?
So for Flowing Wells, they're going to have their quarterback Tyler Friedenberg. I hope I'm
Mhm.
pronouncing that correctly. He'll be the senior returning quarterback, and then they have the number 2 and number 3 running backs coming back, Jaden Simmons and Alfredo
Mhm.
Guzman, as well as their number 1 receiver in Alex Thompson. It's even interesting to see that Tyler Friedenberg actually finished as the number 3 ranked receiver as well.
Mhm.
But as far as the defensive end, you're losing your top 3 tacklers. I'm interested to see how that's going to affect them on that side of the ball, but still a good core on the offensive end to kind of make some noise.
It looks like to me they were pretty much a run dominant kind of program. Really didn't
Right.
get the ball thrown that much from what I'm looking at here. So losing the one Josh is it Joshua or Josiah Leon.
Hmm.
I think that kind of hurts a little bit, but it looks like they actually were pretty good at distributing the ball amongst the other running backs as well. So that's a good thing to kind of see. Um, I think this on mine because like you had mentioned, the difference is the game with Maricopa. Me and Rodney
Hmm.
both picking them to win. Um, actually, Flowing Wells to win Maricopa. I I don't know if I bit off a little bit quicker than I should have because I actually think that Maricopa might actually pull that one off. And I would also watch. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what's going on down in Nogales, but I know Salarito with Jake Allen, as we'll talk about him later on a different region. He's been
Hmm.
doing a lot with that program too, so it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Is there anything else you wanted to throw on this with you, Rodney?
I mean, you guys kind of hit on the head, you know what I mean, as far as, with Flowing Wells. Again, Chris and I, we have them beating Sarita, Salawita, Nogales, and then Maricopa. Um, I mean, I'm trying to see if there's one game that I can see that maybe they can win another. Um, you know what? You know what? Oh, here we go. Okay. Flowing Wells upset Agua Fria first game.
Oh,
Let's go.
and that'd be a good one because they lost to them 16-21 last year, so it was a very good
Hmm.
one. And to the 3 wins that you guys have them, those were their 3 wins from last year. But I'll
Right.
point out even interesting one. If Flowing Wells can be the same team they were last year, they
Hmm.
only lost to Tucson by 7 points. So we'll see
True.
how well that they play when they get into this conference. So
So it could be a 3-7 record or what, a 5-5 record. So we shall see.
that'd
I
be
mean,
huge.
hey, we got a couple more weeks. Here we go. Showtime.
All right, the next one's going to be actually the champion of last year's region for
Hmm.
them is going to be Ironwood Ridge. Dan, you want to hit this one off?
Yep, sure thing. So Ironwood Ridge is going to start things off at home against Seton Catholic, who's 159. Then they'll travel down to Buena, who's 71. At home against Empire, who's 145. At Douglas, who is 136. Then home against Saguaro with an H, as Rodney likes to say, who's 115. Then 2 road games at Flowing Wells, who's 137, and Tucson, who's 108. Then coming off the bye, they have back-to-back home games against Nogales, who's 187, against Maricopa, who's 130, and then finish off against where they'll travel down to Mountain View, or I should say down the road to Mountain View, who is 102. And Max Preps has them going 9-1 this year.
Let's
Me and
go.
Rodney are kind of we are in agreement with Max Preps on this one, while Chris, you
Hmm.
have them going 7-3. So do you want to start things off as to why you got them going
You
seven
can
and
shut
three?
me off, man.
Disrespectful, bro. 7-3. We're
But
like,
I'm going to say this. This is what I like about this schedule. I don't
okay,
think it's a bad thing. I think what's happening with this schedule and with this region right now is that some of the teams are getting better. Tucson
okay.
High is looking nice. Also Mountain View, I think what they got is they had all the quarterbacks injury stuff last year. I think they're
Hmm.
coming back. They're kind of tuned up a little bit. I'd like to see what happens with the Mountain View in them. Um, Tucson High on the other
Chris is
side of this
crazy.
is pretty much my favorite one right now in this region. But I mean, I would even tell you guys to do things such as watch. I mean, if you get things sleeping, watch Saguaro. The thing is that or not even necessarily all Saguaro, but you'll
Okay.
watch Saguaro, Buena, stuff like that. Those are the exciting games, as well as like your Mountain View, also your Tucson High, and even Maricopa could even play pretty decent in this game. I think
Listen,
I think what people got to understand is that this is and I'm not trying to say it in a bad way, but this is the easiest record. Literally, they are the second. This is the second worst strength of schedule in all of 5A football. It is. I'm just sorry. It
okay.
it is what it is. So
They say you crazy.
so
So
I'm really trying to see if they're going to be tested, or is it just going to be a little bit too soft as they come into the games that really matter. So that's my angle.
Okay.
Hey,
And
Chris, I'm talking to Ironwood Ridge right now,
Ain't
and they
talking to
said
nobody.
you
You ain't even
they
got
said
phone
you
service, bro.
crazy. Listen,
Where
I'm
you
on the
live, you don't
phone
even have
right
phone
now.
service.
Listen, listen. They said you crazy. Listen, they said, listen. I know last year, like them against Buena, right? Because you said that they're gonna lose. They said last year that was a fluke. You know what I mean? Listen, they coming in hot this year. So they just told me on the phone they might be going undefeated.
ooh,
That's what the streets are talking.
I'll
And when
say
they
this.
talk, I listen.
I'll say this: like when it comes down to Blaine and stuff like that, I think Ironwood Ridge has some great talented kids, especially in the skilled position. We know we've talked
Right,
about it. We know them. I mean, by all means, you talk about Grant, you talk about Matthew, you talk about Maddox, you talk about
right. Justice and David Baba.
all these guys. They have
Right.
talent. Don't get me wrong. My question is, where's their line? What's going on with their quarterback and where's their
Mm-hmm,
line? I don't know that. So my thing is I know Buena's coming back full fledged. They
mm-hmm,
didn't lose really anything at all.
mm-hmm,
Um, the thing with Mountain View, their star running backs returning. He was a
mm-hmm.
stud. And then on top of that, they didn't really throw the ball much anyways. So
Mm.
we'll
You know
see.
what?
Like I'm not trying to say prove me. I mean I'm cool with being proved wrong. You already know.
You know what? So I agree with you as far as not knowing the quarterback position, right? Because obviously they had Dominic Norris, who was their quarterback last year. He graduated. Their top two running backs are gone, which one of them being was the quarterback, and the
mhm,
next one was we all know Conrad Tuffley, who's now at Mount Sac. You know what I mean? And then their top wide receiver, Matthew Connor's there, and then obviously Aiden Norris. And then their defense, I mean, they're only bringing back Samuel. Is it Cleveland or Cleveland? Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I mean, they got some guys that we actually know about that's going to be kind of replacing some of those guys. But again, like what you said, Chris, is like myself, like Dane, we have them going 9-1 exactly. Just losing to Mountain View. I mean, again, Mountain View last year, it was a close game. I mean, they only won by 1 point, So I'm excited to see what Ironwood Ridge can do. You know what, Chris? Okay, here we go. If I had to pick one game that potentially could be like, ooh, that's a good close one. I agree with you. It could be like a Tucson because we're hearing that good things, are going on at Tucson High, which I believe that's the game I'll be at. I believe.
I'll cut in and say this.
Yeah.
With me, what I'm saying, I'm like honestly, one of the biggest things I had a strong, long struggle with this was to me the interchangeable teams are Mountain View, Tucson High, and Ironwood
Mhm.
Ridge. Those
Yeah.
three teams are interlockable. Like literally, I would not be shocked who wins this region.
Mhm.
And honestly, I just think it's a combination of any one of those three.
True.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
but the good part is that Ironwood Ridge is actually going down the path of the Ironwood Ridge of old. It's building. It's kind of getting back up.
Mhm.
It only kind of skipped on the waters of being a sub 500 team, but I
Mhm.
also think the region they're in is actually helping them as well as their
Mhm.
schedule kind of building them up as well. Um, I don't know necessarily last year. I know they did real well, but I think when they got into the playoffs, I think it was a little bit too much for them. I mean,
Yeah.
just
That
because
Higley.
their schedule just doesn't help them. I mean, it's
Right.
good that it's helping them build, but I just don't think their schedule's right now what it needs to be for them to advance and start moving over, hopefully to get into the other region, in my opinion.
Okay. All right, player. You know what? Chris is on it. Chris said, play,
right. I
play
didn't even
harder
have to
people.
say anything.
Anybody
Okay.
No,
want to say anything else
but
on this?
no, if I'm gonna throw a team out there that was actually surprising that gave them their only loss last year,
Mhm.
and it's a team that we're gonna be diving into next.
Mhm.
Maricopa was their only region loss where they lost 21-14. And
Right.
so I'm interested to see if that can be the team that kind of screws everything up from what we have planned so far.
Right.
Because 9-1, me and Rodney agree, Mountain View being the only loss. But
Hmm.
at the same time, Chris, I can see the Tucson and the Buenas definitely going in their favor as well.
Hmm.
As far as that they could lose. So what we're gonna see what Ironwood Ridge really has, not only in the skill position, but like you said, what they got in their front four, front five on offense and defense as well.
I think
Yeah.
there's a couple other sleepers in there that you don't want to kind of sleep on either, like that Saguaro game. I think Saguaro's going in the right direction. Al over there at Saguaro's finally kind of
Hmm.
got his first batch of kids that are really his true kids. There's a lot going on this schedule that like we kind of don't know, but
Mhm.
yeah, it should be in their favor. You're absolutely right. But I
Mm,
mean, it's going to be fun to watch. Definitely, hands down.
absolutely.
We'll jump into the next one, like you had mentioned, Maricopa. I know this is one of your teams. Do you want Rodney to jump in on this, or do you want to
Go
jump
ahead,
in?
Rodney, you take it
No,
over.
let them. You know what? Wait, this one of your teams, Dan. Go ahead and talk to him. Talk about him, Daniel. Go ahead.
All right. Well, we got the Maricopa Rams. They're a team, I believe, finished 4-6 last year. A
Mhm.
team that didn't even have any wins 2 years ago. So they're definitely trending in the right direction. They're going to open up on the road for the first 2 games. They'll be at McClintock for a Thursday night matchup, who's ranked 81. Then at Trevor G. Brown, who is 133. Three straight home games against Sahuarita, who's 186, Casagrande, who is 63, and Mesquite, who is 75. Then after the bye, 2 more road games at Nogales, who's 187, at Tucson, who is 108, home against a Mountain View, who is 102, at Ironwood Ridge, who is 77, and then finally wrap up things at home against Flowing Wells, who is 137. And again, Max Preps has them going 4-6. I'm in agreement with them going 4-6, while Rodney and Chris, you have them going 3-7.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think that 3-7. I think I can see them going more 4-6 than 3-7. The good thing about it is that they have like a good group of kids coming back, right? Like their quarterback, Jose, Cordona, their top 2 running backs, with Caleb Johnson and Jonathan Dempick, you know what I mean? But also their second and third wide receivers, Isaac Lopez, Deion McCain, and then even their second and third tackler on defense with again Isaac Lopez and Max Gambino. So I mean, I can see them kind of like making some noise that might bite me in the butt just looking at this. So I mean, you listen, you guys know if you have a good quarterback coming back, you have a chance. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like it's a pretty good chance. So I mean, I'm looking at like this record, like 3-7. Ooh, I can see them potentially like giving Ironwood Ridge a run for their money. You know what I mean? Just like what they did last year. Um, but then also, I mean, yeah, this is gonna be interesting because I can see them beating Florence Wells. You know what I mean? So from 3-7 to there we go, 5-5, boom. Now you know what I mean. So this is very interesting, very interesting. Hmm.
What about you, Chris? 3-7. I mean, you and Rodney have them beating Trevor G. Brown, Sawarita, and Nogales. Is there anything else that kind of looks positive for you for Maricopa?
I think when you say Trevor Brown, and then when you talk about, for example, Sabarita as well as Nogales, it's pretty much like a safe picks. They should have
Mhm.
these, but I think Rodney's kind of hitting certain things like the Flowing Wells game, the Ironwood Ridge
Mhm.
game, stuff like that. Those could all be interesting. The funny thing and the best thing for me is this: is that Maricopa found a home and it wasn't north. It had to come down south into the southern Arizona market. In this region, they've found some wins. They're finally feeling a little bit confident. They're getting to know our market, which is funny. They're still kind of like a black sheep to us. We don't know
Mhm.
much about Maricopa. So they come down and like all of a sudden we're shocked because we're not even really focusing on them, which I think is a negative. So
Yeah.
I could easily see like a 3-7 turning into a 4-6. And if they really dig in their heels, you might even see a 5-5, a
Mhm.
500 season. And if that's the case, Maricopa, once again, I mean, they're building in the right direction. They found their home, which is cool for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see.
And I think for me, to kind of wrap things up with them, is they were definitely a team that I had a big question mark on. Last year I kind of spoke on the size of Jose Cardona Jr.
Mhm.
He to me is an undersized quarterback, but he definitely showed a lot of promise last year in what he was able to do. I thought they were a team that ran too much of a spread offense without having those contributing factors on in the backfield or at the wide receiver position, just covering them the last few years that I have. But I definitely like the work ethic of Jose Cardona. He's not only the quarterback, but he's also I think the kicker and the punter. So he can do a lot out there. But at the same time, what they're building to from going 0-10, 2 years ago to a 4-6 season is definitely a lot of improvement there. And I think, if they want to be in the considerations of the Ironwood Ridges, the Mountain Views, and the Tucsons, they're going to
Mhm.
have to not only beat one, but possibly all three of them in order to get that respect to be, considered in this 5A Sonoran region with those bunches.
Yeah.
Agree with you, man. Roddy, I know
Mm.
you're gonna kick in here. You get Mountain View, buddy.
Listen. Mountain View is in the building. So Mountain View, ranked 102. Their first game is going to be a home game against Gilbert. Gilbert's ranked 99. And then they're at Horizon, who's ranked 15. Then their next two home games are going to be Sunrise Mountain, who's ranked 50th. And then they have Miranda, who's ranked 48. Then they have a cool bye, which I think they're going to need that before hitting the next four games, which is going to be road games. At Warden Grove, who's ranked 61. Florence Wells, who's ranked 137. At Nogales, who's ranked 187. At Maricopa, who's ranked 130th. And then their last two games of the season are going to be home games, which is Tucson, who's ranked 108, and then Ironwood Ridge, who's ranked 77. Again, Max Preps has them going 4-6. Week 3 are saying that we feel like they're going to do better than 4-6, with Chris and Daniel's going 5-5, and then myself going 6-4. Daniel, 5-5, 500. Talk to me.
I mean, the if you look at the way Mountain View schedule lays out,
Mm-hmm.
they go through a gauntlet those first 4 games, and that's where a majority of their losses come from. But then they start, coming into region play and kind of cleaning house almost. As far as for me, I have them starting off 0-4.
Mm-hmm.
I think that all 4 teams, maybe they could have a great game against Gilbert. I believe they did last year, only losing by 6 points. So there's still
Mm-hmm.
some hope as far as the Gilbert game goes. But then I actually have what we would consider an upset this year, but or it would probably be last year, but this year being the team that Tucson is, I have Tucson picking up a win against them to give them their 5th loss. So like I
Mm.
said, they have the toughest schedule in
Yeah.
this region, and it starts off in those first 4 games. If they can withstand a couple of those games, Mountain View could possibly be a team to win this whole thing.
Yeah. It and you know what's crazy? What's crazy is, and here we go, like uh their head coach, right? Which I cannot think of his name right now. I
Matt
can
Johnson.
There you go, Matt. I was like, man, I know it's John in it. Matt Johnson is known for playing tough teams. Okay.
Mhm.
Like, he does not run away from competition. And when you look at this, like, you got Gilbert, Horizon, Sunrise Mountain, then Marana. I mean, I think even though they, could go on for like what we're saying, I think that's going to prepare them for when they do hit region, right? And I think that's where mine come in with those 6 wins, because like at what, like, literally my next are those, they're going to go on a 6-game winning streak, and I think they're going to be battle tested. They're going to say, hey, if we can hang with Horizon, if we can hang with Sunrise Mountain, then our region, we can probably hang with them too. Because I know last year they beat Marana, which, let's be honest, we were all shocked.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie either. You
Oh,
know what I
we
mean?
were there live. Yeah. That was one of
Great
the
game.
craziest games I think me and Chris called all year.
Yeah, So I got a question. Out of those 4 games, those first 4, before we start naming off like guys that they have at Mountain View and give them some love, what game could they potentially get a win out of those first 4?
I'm gonna go with Gilbert, that very first one. I'm gonna take that Rodney reference where teams come and they can be, yeah, they can play bad, or the pretty much the favorite can have a good day
Mhm,
or a bad day, and the other team just sneaks off a victory. I think that that's kind of what happened with Marana last year, is that
mhm.
when they kind of got complacent in that second half, and next thing you know, Mountain View was right there to seal the deal.
Yeah, yeah.
What about you, Chris?
I mean, for me, what I'm looking at is that you guys hit certain things like Matt Johnson. He typically does this. He's done it for years, where he
Mhm,
goes off real strong in the non-region games because he's trying to kick up the strength of his schedule.
mhm,
He literally has to. I mean, granted, he's coming in with the strongest schedule on this region, like Rodney pointed out, but at the same time, it's not even one of the strongest or near the one of the strongest in the other region because they go through such a watered down backside of this. So
mhm,
he has to do this. So the one thing that I'm sitting here looking at this is honestly for them to make it to the playoffs, I think they got to pick up 3 games. I think they got to pick up the Gilbert game. They got to try and see if they can pull off another Marana victory thing again, as well
mhm,
as Walden Grove. Let's be honest, Gilbert and
mm.
Walden Grove wasn't easy for them last year. There was
Right.
a lot of different things where Walden Grove shut them out. They took them. If I did, they beat him out. They beat him last year, correct? Uh,
Walden Grove did. Yeah.
beat him.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure they did. Um,
Mhm,
so once again, you can't. Here's my concern with his schedule, as well as with just being in this region. He's got a lot of strong strength here, but if they don't pull off some of these wins, I hate to sound like this, I don't think you start getting these games anymore in the future because you're going to have a lot of these teams that are ranked low that aren't able to get certain games, such as your Sunrise Mountain, your
mhm,
Horizon games. They're not going to be options for them to boost up their strength of schedule. They're going to water their schedule down and try to see if they can win because leaving at 500 games and stuff like that is going to start becoming a problem. So they're going to have to start getting some wins here. That's my
mhm,
angle. I mean, the 500 is kind of cool that we're giving it to them. I mean, it's easy to sit there and say Flowing Wells, Nogales, maybe even Maricopa in there. We've already said it's going to be a challenge with Ironwood Ridge and Tucson High,
mhm.
and then on
Mhm.
top of that, the front load of your schedule is bad.
Yeah.
So us saying 6-4 and 5-5 is not going to be easy for them.
Look,
And
and you know what? One thing that helps them,
Max
I
Preps
mean,
actually might be more right. I hate to sound like that.
listen, the one thing that helps them is that they do have that running back.
Mhm.
Okay, listen,
Absolutely,
Nicholas Hoyle.
absolutely.
hey, that running back is good. Nicholas
He's
is
a dog.
good.
Like there's a lot of talent there and always has been.
Mhm,
Mountain
mhm.
View has always had amazing talent there for years.
Right.
It's like, okay, cool. But once again, like we've said, some of this region's getting better.
Yeah.
Mhm,
So you got to kind of you either got to become that team and pull away from it because like if Tucson High
mhm,
starts getting that momentum, and all this other stuff's going on. One of these teams is going to get pulled out and go up to I personally, when they
mhm.
realign, I think one of these teams might actually get pulled out and go over to the other side.
Yeah. And I think the biggest question mark, if you look at Mountain View, is what are they going to do at quarterback this year?
Right.
When you have a game where they were down to their fourth string quarterback, I don't even think you'd call him your quarterback because it was a wide receiver who came in and was running the snaps. Is they
Mhm,
kind of remind me of a post and butte type team where they're relying solely on their run game and their defense to kind of get them by. Where I think if they added an added dimension to it with the quarterback position, then they could possibly, show some improvement there. But
mhm,
I have a question about Mountain View, and comparing Ironwood Ridge. So, but I'll save it for the end of the show. But yeah, definitely, I want to see what they're going to do at the quarterback position.
I want to know what's going on with the defense. I think Mountain View's always solid there too.
mhm.
But yeah, we'll get into it in the end. So hey, for those who are, make sure you stick around because we might be talking about some random stuff at the end here. Um,
Right.
let's jump over into the next one. Nogales. Who's got this? This is you,
That's
Dan.
Yep. Nogales will start things at Pueblo, who is 126. They'll be home against Casa Grande, who is 63. Then at Rio Rico, who is 158. Coming off the bye, they'll be at home against Sunnyside, who is ranked 80th, at Desert View, who is 118. Back to back home games against Maricopa, who is 130, and Mountain View, who is 102. Then back to back road games at Ironwood Ridge, who's 77, and at Flowing Wells, who is 137. Then
Mhm.
wrap things up at home against Tucson, who is 108. Max Preps yet again has them going 0 and 10. And we are pretty much in agreement that Nogales will finish 0 and 10 again this year.
Yeah. Um, it's gonna be a rough year. And again, I just think with them, they need to just find some kind of camaraderie because it's gonna be tough. You know what I mean? When you're even looking at the kids that they have coming back, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, were they a run team? Were they a passing team? You know what I mean? Like I think what they need to do is, you know, find their identity. There you go. That's literally what it is. Find their identity and run with it. Because do I see that they can come in and maybe beat like a Rio Rico? You know, maybe. You know, do I see them coming in and maybe beating like a Flown Wells at the end of the year? Maybe. So, I mean, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough.
And what about you, Chris? What do you think as far as Nogales goes?
I think Nogales, like right now, what they really need to focus on is getting that rival game back in their pocket. That Rio
Hmm.
Rico game that they've never lost to them until 2 years ago, and now it's been back to back losses. I think they
Hmm.
need to get that ball swinging back in the right direction. Um, you're right. I mean, the thing is this is another part of the schedule that people aren't talking about. This is also the second strongest schedule in this region.
Hmm.
So not only are they playing, their non-region game with Casa Grande, that's not easy.
Hmm.
Sunnyside, who Sunnyside might be actually swinging on a downswing, being really super young this year. I
Hmm.
think Desert View is actually going to be a little better, so that might be a little hard. But I think like the two things, the two opportunities they really need to focus on is obviously Rio Rico. You got to try to get that one back in your pocket. You also got
Mhm.
to try and get that Flowing Wells game back in your pocket if you can do that. But also just being involved in some of these games, like
Right.
the thing with some of their past scores and stuff like that is just like it's almost like you're defeated. This is a team that needs to come together and actually start playing like Nogales Apache football. They got to
Hmm.
start wearing the badge. They got to start feeling it and buying into it because I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like with you guys, is that it's almost like they're deflated just as the things start kind of going one direction, and then they
Hmm.
can't get back on track. The
Mhm.
the scores show that. Like you
Yeah.
got to get in these games. I don't give a shit if you win. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
to me, your victories right now is just being relevant,
Yeah.
not being a joke.
Hmm.
And that's the unfortunate thing and tone that they got to overcome is like not feeling like they're this joke that doesn't, just doesn't compete. Like
Hmm.
this is the time, guys. You got to grab it and kind of, by the seat of your pants. Let's do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, and I can definitely agree with you there, Chris. Just looking at these scores, they
Hmm.
did not score more than 2 touchdowns in a game once last year, just
I
to
mean,
show, how big of a difference that is. They were shut out in 3, 4, 6 out of their 10 games. So,
Yeah.
there's definitely it's the only way to go is up, and I
Hmm.
think, like you said, it's all starts with that Rio Rico game.
you have to.
Seeing if something can be close there, and it's so interesting to see the dynamics of Nogales football compared to like Nogales baseball, who are in the
Hmm.
running for a state championship every single year. Where is that mentality in baseball? And I know, when you go right across the border into Nogales, Mexico, it's all about baseball over there, and
Hmm.
so I think that that's why where you see the hunger of that sport and why it flourishes so well for Nogales. But the
Hmm.
same thing has to be built when it comes to the football program as well.
I think one of the big things, especially in programs such as this, is that the culture has to change.
Mhm.
You
Mm,
can't sit there. I mean, yeah, people flock to the baseball team. Why? Because they win.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like if you like, let's be honest, as you're walking down the hallways at your school and you haven't really won any kind of games as football players, like it's almost like, yeah, you're like you're playing because you love the game.
Hmm.
Like if you already feel like you're losing, then guess what? You're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Be in the weight room, change the culture, buy in. Don't be the quick, hurry up, get off this kind of stuff. I'm sorry, like if you want to change shit, do it. Stop complaining about
Hmm.
it. Get your friends and so get some of those baseball players to come out and be on the team. Like, shit, do something. Because and it starts once again, I think we hit the key point. You have to beat the Rio Rico game.
Mhm.
Right.
You have to,
Mhm.
because if not, that community or your future is going to just sit there and go, you know what? Where would we rather play? The school that's
Mhm.
got the new facilities, the school that's got, the easier schedule, the school that's like, I'm going to go over to Rio Rico. Like,
Mhm.
let's be
Yeah.
honest.
And maybe that they're a team that eventually you're gonna see them like a Rincon, where they're playing 2 levels down compared to what they were, Rincon moving down to 4A, I think played a couple of 2A teams last year, right? But like that to me is where it's gonna have to eventually go, or they're gonna have to possibly move down.
Well, I think after the season when the realignments come around, I think Flowing Wells and Nogales both should be on the chopping block to get pushed down. I
Mhm.
mean, it's been way too long that they've been battling on in 5A where they shouldn't have been for. I mean, them as well as look at Rincon and Choya. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
I think they're doing better where they are. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, real quick, just to give these young men a shout out. Again, quarterback Caleb Fuentes, their second and third running back, who is John is in Nunez, and then Antonio Garcia, and then their wide receivers. They're only bringing one back, which is their quarterback, Caleb Fuentes, and then on defense, I mean, they have one guy coming back, and Antonio Garcia. So at the end of the day, listen, Nogales, come together, stay together,
Yeah.
win some games.
they got great talent down there.
Yeah,
There's some
yeah,
solid kids down there.
yeah, yeah. You know what I
Gotta
mean?
gotta
So
buy in, dude. Change the culture.
that's it. Got to buy in. Camaraderie. So,
All right,
yes,
who's
sir.
wrapping up the last one?
Let's go. Here we go. So,
Johnny's
last
team
one
over
is
here.
Tucson. Let's get it. Here we go. So Tucson coming in at 108. Their first game is an away game out here in good old Phoenix, South Mountain, who's ranked 169. And then their next two games are going to be home games, which is Marana, who's ranked 48, and then Cienega, who's ranked 88. Then they're at Buena, who's ranked 71, and then they're at Catalina Foothills, who's ranked 83rd. They have a cool bye. And then their next 5 games is going to be Ironwood Ridge, who's ranked 77, Maricopa, who's ranked 130, Florin Wells, again, a home game, who's 137. And then wrapping up the regular season is going to be away games at Mountain View, who's 102, and then at Nogales, who's ranked 187. Tucson, I mean, not Tucson, but Max Preps has them going 4-6. Me and Daniel have them going 6-4, while Chris is the believer of Tucson High, them going 7-3. So, Chris, 7-3. Talk to your boy.
I mean, my thing here is this: is Tucson High, and you see them, they're getting involved, they're coming together.
Mm-hmm.
That community, exactly what we talked about, what Nogales needs to do, they're
Mm-hmm.
doing it over at Tucson High. They're
Mhm.
buying in, they're becoming a culture, a group together, a program.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to work on a program under Coach Zach over there. Um, I think obviously they got to start off strong with South Mountain. They should get that
Mm-hmm.
one. That's the easiest team. Well, besides Nogales, that's the easiest team that's on their roster. So they got to get that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think then you kind of go into the big gauntlet for their thing, which is back to back to back with Marana, Cienega, and Buena. I think those are your solid teams in there coming from the other region, which they should be the solid teams because they are in the other region. So
Mm-hmm.
any one of those games, if they can pick that up, bonus, guys. Go for it. Try to get in there. I think Catalina Foothills is actually on a down slope a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed that in one of our other shows.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's why I'm going to go ahead and give them the win there. I think once again, we've talked about it earlier in the show. Ironwood Ridge, Mountain View. These are the games that you're going to have to
Mhm.
watch and the region plays. So, I mean, I think honestly, if they can pull off the region, then the three games is going to be that Marana, Cienega, and Buena, which you all agree that those are the three
Mhm.
games. You guys are actually just adding other ones in there.
Oh,
Yeah, I think,
listen.
go ahead, Rodney.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm gonna let you go.
Okay. Well, you know what? Yeah, those are the 3 gauntlet games there. Then I had, Ironwood Ridge,
Mhm,
picking up the victory against them as well. But when I look at Tucson, and what they have coming back, Joseph Romero, it looks like they're another team very run heavy, but
mhm,
they got Joseph Romero coming back at quarterback. He was also the second leading rusher on the team, as well as Noah Chanez
mhm,
or
mhm,
he's the third leading rusher, and then of course you have what this is the interesting part of it all is you have Noah and Joseph as the number one and number two receivers, along with Ollie Simmers coming in at number three.
mhm.
So they got a good portion of that offense coming back. I think even if they can pull up a couple of victories, like Chris said, out of those three, I might even give them the Cienega game, depending on what Cienega is this year. And you know
Mhm.
what? I wouldn't be surprised even if they beat Ironwood Ridge. So you're talking possible 6-4 to an 8-2 season. That's going to be what gets it done
Mhm.
for Tucson and to finally see them back in the playoff picture. I say at least a 7-3, but if you can pick up an 8-2 on a year, you're going to be like an Ironwood Ridge last year.
You know what? You said some real good stuff. Cienega, that's going to be a tough one. I don't
Mhm.
see them beating Cienega, but you know what? You never know. Again, when you do have, your quarterback coming back, but then again, like what you said, is they were more of like a running team.
Mhm.
Let's see what those, like Joseph Romero and Noah's going to do with that opportunity, being, like the top dog this year, which it looks like, just from their stats. Again, I have them going 6-4, just like you, Daniel, where they're picking up those losses. The extra one is going to be against Ironwood Ridge. Um, you know what? Ironwood Ridge depending on what their quarterback situation is, they could be scary. You know what I mean? So again, just trying to figure that out. But again, just my opinion. I don't think Tucson's going to beat Ironwood Ridge. You know what they do? You can palm me in the face. I don't care. But again, yeah, I mean, again, I see Tucson going 6-4, which again, Max Prep's got them going 4-6. So we think a little bit
Way
more.
better than a 4-6 team, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like 4-6. That's crazy, but
They need to get away from that 4-6 funk.
mhm,
I mean,
Mhm.
honestly, they need to go 500 and better. They need to start getting out of this hole. Once again, I think the goal for this region is to try to get to the other region.
Yeah.
mhm,
That's got to be what it is. Um, and I'll go ahead and kind of show where we went ahead and wrap up on where we picked our games here.
mhm,
At the same time, we'll go over what we always do and say who we pretty much pick as our region winners here. I'll go
mhm,
ahead and jump out. Like I said, I got Tucson High being my number 1 seed, my number 2 seed Mountain View, my number 3 seed Ironwood Ridge, 4 seed's going to be Flowing Wells, which I might have screwed up on that one with Maricopa being the 5th seed and also Nogales being my 6th seed. What do you got, Daniel?
So for me, I'm gonna work backwards this time, just because I got an
mhm.
interesting finish at the end there. I
Right.
got Nogales finishing last, going 0-5. Right behind them, I have Flowing Wells finishing 1-4, and then Maricopa finishing 2-3. And then if they were, if everybody's following along with my picks, I have a three-way tie for first place with Ironwood Ridge, Mountain View, and Tucson all going 4-1, each one beating each other. So
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting if that plays out correctly, which team is going to get the nod as the region champions.
that's
Rodney,
interesting.
what's yours?
Okay, so I have Mountain View going 5-0 in region, and then a little bit like Daniel, I have a tie. with Ironwood Ridge going 4-1, and then Tucson going 4-1, and then fourth is going to be Foreign Wells, who's going to go, or looking at going 2-3, and then Maricopa going 1-4 is going to be fifth, and then coming in last place, just like these other two gentlemen, Nogales going 0-5. So again, I'm agreeing with you, Daniel. That Ironwood Ridge, the Mountain View, and the Tucson. I mean, just depends on who wants to come in and take reign. You know what I mean? So it should be a good region for sure.
I'll say this, and I'm going to stir some stuff up right now, and I'm going to piss a
Go
lot of
ahead.
people off. If you guys are right with the ties or
Mhm.
anything like that, none of these teams are making the playoffs.
Oh,
Ooh, that's a good point.
And I don't mean it to be a negative person, but I'm going to tell you like this is my point of view, is that the strength of schedule is horrible.
mm-hmm.
And honestly, they're going to wind up knocking each other out of the opportunity. Remember what had to happen just barely for Ironwood Ridge to even get involved, and a lot of people even contested that they didn't think they deserved to be there, and that was an 8-2 schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So if they can't, like, none of these teams can't pull above an 8-2, it's really hard to make the playoffs out of this region. It's not designed to be that region.
Mm.
This
Yeah.
region's designed to rebuild and get over to the other side. And like I've been saying throughout the show, you need to get to the other side. So
Yeah, because that was going to lead into kind of my question, as far as it was Mountain View doing themselves any service with going, 5-5 last year, with having the toughest schedule in this region, while a team like Ironwood Ridge had the easiest schedule
Mm-hmm.
and went 8-2 and made it to the playoffs. Like, is it
You
even
know,
worth it at times? Because they're playing the same 5 games, uh, and then they're picking up 5 other games. Is it better to go and blow out the teams that are easier on your schedule, that are non, conference games, or go and do what Mountain View's been doing, having 4, tough, first games and losing them
mhm.
all?
You know what? I'm going to say I'd rather be Mountain View. I'd rather be Mountain View and play tough non-region games. One, it builds confidence, right? Because let's be honest, if they pull out a win against a Gilbert, right?
Mhm,
You know what that does to a whole team to say we were expected to lose from everybody else, right? But also what it does is at the end of the season, because I know Chris talks about this a lot, is a strength of schedule. We've seen a lot of teams last year who were 4-6, 5-5, but because of their strength of schedule, they made it to the playoffs. I'd rather do that than take a chance on like a Ironwood Ridge who goes 8-2, and they're hoping that they make the playoffs, because let's be honest, their strength of schedule sucks.
mhm.
So again, I'd rather be Mountain View and face those tough teams.
I, I
Oh,
think I think my view is that you're coming in a region with 7 teams.
Mm-hmm.
That only gives you 4 non-region games. So for you to climb up out of the hole of being a weak, pretty much non-dominant region, you
uh-huh,
have to climb up the ladder as a region as a whole. So you got to look at all your fellow teams that are in this region and hope they're winning games in the non-region games for you to get the strength of schedule. That's how you get your strength of schedule up as a region, because let's be honest, once you get in your region, all you're going to do is beat each other up.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So your strength of schedule doesn't change that much when you're playing region play. You're just trying to be the dominant dog in region play. But what tends to happen is you need to have that strong strength of schedule, but be productive with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just losing and so on and so on, it might help you a little bit, but you're not helping out your region. And
mhm.
with only having 4 games, that's why it hurts. For
Well, there's
example,
only 6 teams in this region, though.
is there only 6?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
only
I
so
six.
it's
might be
they
I'm
have yeah, no, it's
thinking
okay.
about tequila.
Yeah.
But like I'm telling you, like, guys, like, the non-region games here matter, and actually, this is a reflection to say, for instance, when you talk about the Ironwood Ridge's schedule, that
Mm-hmm.
hurts. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because okay, cool, they won. As we all know, if you go, and people may not know this, if you go 10-0 during your season, you automatically get into the playoffs.
Mhm.
automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So playing a weak schedule, yeah, it might help you out, but you didn't help anybody else out. That's what I think honestly happens. So you really want to kind of see that strength of schedule within the non-region amongst your peer teams, but being productive with it. The
Yeah.
sad part is if you're not being productive with it and you're just getting your ass whooped, like it's not helping you all. I mean,
Mhm.
True.
look at how the strength of schedule is for each one of these teams outside of, for example, like Nogales once again, they're picking up stuff, but typically that's because they're the worst in their region. So they're gonna have the strongest one based off of that alone.
Right.
Then you're also looking at, Mountain View, like we had mentioned, who over and over and over plays that strong dominant region,
Mm-hmm.
non-region games, but they come in 0-5, and then they mop up the rest of the room.
Right.
That tends to be how they've done it for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they can pick something else up, they make it to the playoffs.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh boy.
interesting stuff, man. I mean, this has really become a real interesting region to me,
Mm-hmm.
It has.
as well as the Gila. And granted, that's our next show, but like it's these are two interesting regions because
Mm-hmm.
these programs are now finally winning. Like you
Mhm.
saw, like we talked about it, Maricopa is finally having seasons that they didn't have just minutes ago. You talk about Ironwood Ridge that dipped really hard. I mean, literally freaking took a face plant, turn around, and now they're somebody's talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's several programs in here. Tucson High. I mean, averagely they don't do 500. Now they're finally
Right.
like looking. I would have to pull up that stat. Which, I mean, I've been talking to Daniel. We're going to be probably doing some report cards on the strength of schedules. So it's going to be a fun
It'll be
show.
fun.
Make sure you guys tune into those. Uh,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a lot of cool things. I mean,
I'm interested to see what everybody else has to say, because I know everybody's gonna have their opinion, but it's definitely gonna be one of the funnest ones to kind of keep our eye on because, like you said, it's the region to take that next step. This is a
Mm-hmm.
perfect opportunity for all of these teams to improve, but those ones who are already knocking at the door for possibly moving out of this region. I'm interested to see how many of those guys can, uh, you know, leapfrog each other, I guess.
let me bounce this off of you two.
Okay.
Ready? This is going to be controversy. The question that's going to come up. Granted, the goal is to move over to the other region.
Mhm.
Okay.
What team out of the other region could you see falling back into this one?
And we're talking the 5A Southern, right?
Rip.
Oh.
What team out of the 5A Southern do you think that would flop? Or
Mm.
I'm
another thing. Or another thing. I love doing, like, I'll throw in a monkey wrench on you too. Or does Nogales and Flowing Wells drop down and CDO and Micah Mountain move up?
Ooh,
Oh.
I'm
Mm.
gonna.
Pick
Oh,
one of those battles. Go
I'll
ahead.
go first. I'll go first. I'll say I'm gonna drop down Desert View to the
Mm-hmm.
5A Sonoran. I'm gonna drop down Flowing Wells and
Mm-hmm.
Nogales to the 4A.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna bring up CDO and Micah Mountain, but I'm gonna put Micah Mountain in the 5A Southern, and I'm gonna put CDO in the 5A Sonoran. Then that's just based off of the
Mm.
amount of talent that they have. I still think CDO has another couple years before they're that team we saw last year,
Interesting.
where
Okay.
Micah Mountain, they're gonna be able to plug in and replace. So I would love to see them, go toe to toe every year with Cienega
To see
and
if
make that a very
Mm.
competitive
to
game.
see if that's relevant, CDO plays Desert V this year.
Okay.
Right. See, okay, you know what? This is what I would do.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you know how you said you would drop down Desert View? I would drop down Desert View and Sunnyside and bring up CDO and Micah Mount in the Southern. Just let's go ahead and do it. Boom. Let's go. But that's interesting though. That would
Yeah.
be
That'd be a fun
Mm.
topic right there. I think we could have a whole show on, you know
That
what, maybe
topic.
that's something we do at the end of the year is to be like, who's up, who's down, where's our region looking like
The
before they do the
pre-predictions.
realignment.
Yeah, the
Interesting.
pre-prediction alignments.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, yeah.
because I mean, because we definitely have to look at that 4A, the 4A Gilas and
Right.
all of it, because some teams could possibly move down to 3A, and where are
Mhm.
they going?
I mean, could you even imagine, like, even this, dude, hypothetically, like you have Tucson High, Mountain View, um, Ironwood Ridge, put CDO and Micah Mountain even in that region. It's still something to talk about.
Hmm.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, like
Hmm.
that's I mean, or like you said, like Daniel move Micah Mountain CD over, and now like you have Tucson High, right? Ironwood Ridge, Mountain View with Sunnyside Desert View. I mean, these
And then we
now
got
we're starting to
Maricopa
talk
now.
real fun
For,
like
right.
regions that can actually move and have a lot more potential to get teams into the playoffs.
Yeah,
Like I think with the weight of the dead weight that's going on, and like it sounds horrible, but it's just time. Flowing Wells, Nogales got to get out of there.
Hmm.
They pulled down that region so much that like once they're gone, it's almost like somebody unlifted let the air it back into the balloon. And you're gonna float a little bit more. But I mean, like I know it sounds horrible, but like
It does.
they need to be amongst teams like the Choya teams, the
Hmm. Hmm.
Raycons, and actually strive amongst those and build up. And we could go on, like I said, we could talk about that show
but you know
forever.
what? That could possibly be like, the what is it? The 2A, what was it? This 2A San Pedro?
Hmm.
Okay. Hmm.
Something like that, where it's all these teams combined that are trying to rebuild their programs, and when they're ready to make that next jump, then they can move back up. But
Hmm.
keep them all in the same one, because they're only helping each other out just to get better. Like you said, Chris, beat each
Hmm.
other up a little bit. But I think it's time to buff up the 5A Southern and 5A Sonoran and
Hmm.
Time to buff
make
up
them.
Southern Arizona. Screw the like. Let's buff it up. Like either that or just trim off the fat and move and not have two regions in 5A go to four. I mean 3 teams in 4A
Mhm.
or three regions in 4A. That's what I meant.
Okay.
That'd be interesting.
I mean even that would be a conversation. But there's so many teams in 4A right now. They need to do something. They need to
Yeah.
clean that up. What is there, 53 teams in freaking 4A? It's
Yeah.
Something like
horrible.
that. Right.
There's only 30 something in 6A. Come on, man.
Hey, tune in for the end of the year episode on
And we'll
that
be
one,
talking
'cause
about
for
4A.
sure, yeah.
Oh man.
Because yeah,
Wow.
we're going into that 4A Gila. That's the next
Hmm.
one.
Great
Yeah,
read.
Man.
it'll
A
be
lot of
good.
talk about there.
Yeah.
All right. You guys
Oh,
done?
man. I think
Listen,
I'm good.
we good. Oh, listen, real quick.
Oh,
Hey, for people tuning in, we already dropped the Game Time Senior Bowl next year,
Mhm.
January 11th. We already dropped the location. It's going to be at Ottawa University over there on the west side, in Surprise, Arizona. Be on the lookout because we're gonna drop something else. Okay, we got a little goodie bag that we're putting together.
Uh-oh.
So people, make sure you nominate. Make sure registration is going to open up September 1st. Make sure you get, because we only accepting 80. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So if you ain't there, you're gonna miss out on something great. So I'm excited. Just had to drop that little nugget. You know what I'm saying? So I'm out.
Yeah.
all right.
I think,
All right.
and yeah, I don't have anything to say. I'll save it for the next one, for the
Right
4A
on.
Gila. Waiting for two weeks.
And
We got what, 2 weeks?
who's the last one that we're going to be doing? The one after the Gila.
After that, we're going back into my area, where we're going to do the 4A Desert Sky.
The
Teams
last.
like
Okay.
Vista Grande,
Yeah.
Arizona College Prep, Arcadia. Gonna
And you
be
know what?
interesting one.
And speaking of Vista Grande, I mean, big shout outs, sad loss, obviously, to
Mhm.
Louis Ramirez. I mean, it's unfortunate. That's why I was rocking the Vista Grande shirt today. Is like,
Okay.
it's unfortunate. Uh, people, if you need something, reach out, talk. I'll just scratch the surface. But
Yeah.
it
Absolutely.
definitely a big thoughts and prayers going out to the family and everything like that, and
Yeah,
also to that Vista Grande family as well. So y'all
absolutely.
have a good one. This wraps it up. We'll be back at it before you know. We out.